Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Damian Lemos. Welcome to a new course. This time we'll talk about the Nimzowitsch Defense for Black. I've been waiting for a long time to record this one. I've been working on the lines. I've got to say, I love this defense for Black. It's a defense that's usually underestimated uh, by white players because they think after e4, and we'll get started with this, we'll start the intro with this. After e4, knight c6, they think this first move by black is a move that's only played at the glove players level, even, lowest levels. But to be fair, it's quite a tricky variation, as we'll see. There are a lot of sharp ideas for black. There are a lot of things to take into account when it comes to the move order. And that being said, this was also played by top players. I'll just name one, and it's world's number one and probably the best player in history, Magnus Carlsen. So I think that says it all. That means 96 is playable to say the least, and hopefully uh, with my work, you'll get a lot of confidence to play this line in practice in your games. So after e4, knight to c6, let's talk about the move order a little bit, and then, as I usually do in my courses, we'll start narrowing the lines down and we'll analyze them one by one. I also like focusing on ideas. If you watch other courses, by me, you probably know that I like focusing on ideas. I try to make our opening play as simple as possible. So let's start our analysis. After e4, knight to c6, usually white goes d4. Now, d4 is not without risk, because after d4, our idea as black is to play we're mixing knight c6 with the Scandinavian here, and now we're fighting for the center. We are ahead in terms of development, so if white takes, we get our queen out to d5. Now we got eyes on d4. Now all of a sudden, we can try playing e5. The other bishop gets out as well. So let's say white plays something like knight to f3, right, to defend the pawn on d4. Now there are ideas such as e5. And again, the bishop is coming out. We can play bishop g4 as well. Now we've got a pin. We suddenly have the option to castle queenside, and then the rook joins the game as well. There are some gambits, some tactics. So you can see where I'm going here. By just playing simple moves, we are already creating threats. And if white is not prepared against this, then he'll be in trouble right off the bat, because he might have a stronger center, but he doesn't have a good development. And in the opening, if you don't know what you're doing, then it can end up badly, usually in less than 10, 20 moves. So this is one of the key lines that we have to study. And of course, we'll uh, analyze more after d4, d5. The other thing I'll mention is, and let's see, I rewind here, e4, knight to c6. Of course, white can play knight to f3. This is played a lot. I've noticed knight f3 is the preferred move by stronger players, probably because they don't want to enter the crazy lines after d4, d5. So the thing is, after knight f3, if we wanted to play an e4, e5 game, we can just play e5 here, and then we'll transpose into either an Italian or a Spanish. That's what we usually get. Now, if we want to stick to Nimzowitsch territory, I'll recommend other ideas here for black. There are ideas with d6. We can try playing like Perk, where our knight on c6, in my view, is well placed. We can still try something like d5 and some lines. So we'll analyze this in detail as we move on, chapter by chapter. But for this intro, after e4, knight to c6, we'll focus on white's main move, d4. It makes a lot of sense for white to play d4 here because knight c6 is perceived to be a weak move by black on the queen side. That being said, we know we got a lot of ideas here, so let's start analyzing them. After d4, we'll play d5, of course, and now in the first game, which, by the way, you'll find in the BGM files, is the port against Grandmaster Bauer. We see this being played in an official standard game, and Black, being a 2600 rated Grandmaster, is playing against a 2200 rated player. So we can see that Black is interested in creating imbalances in this game because, for obvious reasons, Black, being the 2600, is playing for a win. So let's see how this line plays out. In this game, White plays e5. Now, e5, it gets White a lot of space on the king side. Now, after e5, it reminds me a little bit of the Caro-Kann and the French, where White plays e5 and gets a lot of space. You can see this arrow I'm doing here. What e5 does is it stops our knight from coming out to f6. So if we don't have a knight on f6, we won't have a kingside defender. So it'll be easier for white to one day enter the kingside playing queen g4 or queen h5. So once white plays e5, here we need to devise our plan properly, and we'll start off by playing bishop f5. Again, this reminds me of the Caro-Kann. In the Caro-Kann, black takes on the opportunity to take the bishop out before playing e6. And here we'll do the same. By playing bishop f5, we're ready to play e6, and then our bishop won't be inside the pawn chain. If that bishop was still on c8, it would be a terrible bishop. But now, if we play bishop f5 and e6, then our bishop is on the right side of the pawn chain. Let's put it that way. Not to mention that we've got eyes on c2, we might have maybe e4, so that's also a possibility. And after bishop f5, we'll see that in this game, white plays knight to f3. Alright, so let's focus on the plans here. You can tell we've got every single piece on board, so we're likely to get a close position, and we'll also have a lot of maneuvers. So here black plays e6, and white goes a3. So we see probably, I wouldn't say mistake, because a3 is not necessarily a mistake, but white is being too careful. I assume white's player in this game, he was concerned about knight to b4, but if he was really concerned about that, he could have played c3, which offers white a solid pawn chain, and then, of course, there's still no knight to b4. Had white played c3, black should have used the same plan that he used in the game, and that is counter attacking in the center, playing f6. And this is what I really like about this line, because we make good use of our knight on c6, and we can already start putting pressure on white's center. And f6 is just the beginning, because on top of that, we can still consider a queenside castle, and because we've got a pawn on f6, we might do a pawn storm on the king side later on. Knight to e7 is a move that we're likely to play. So we've got a clear plan here as black, and that's what I like about this line. So in this game, white plays a3, and here we play f6. We have to challenge white's center as soon as we can, because otherwise white will simply have stable advantage because he's got more space. Here we see that white goes bishop b5 in this game. Now, the question you're probably asking here is what happens if he takes on f6? Well, usually taking on f6, this happens in the Caro-Kann French as well. This helps black because even if we play the engine's second best move, which is the most natural move here, even if we take with a knight, then we get a great position here. We can even castle short, and we get knight e4. We got a lot of piece play here. e5 is a move that we're likely to play as well. We can transfer our pieces towards the king side. The fact the pawn is no longer on e5, it gives us a lot of freedom to do essentially whatever we want in the center and king side. So white loses all of his space advantage the minute he takes on f6. Now, that being said, after pawn takes, knight takes f6, believe it or not, is not the best move for black. Queen takes f6 is even better, because now you can still play bishop d6. Our knight can come out via e7, plus we can castle queenside. We're way ahead in terms of development. We might have bishop g4 as well, e5 at some point. We got so many ideas, whilst that white's king's still on e1. So again, I don't think this is good for white at all, but it's a line that our opponents might play. They might take on f6. It doesn't look too bad for white. It's a natural reaction. Now if they go bishop e2, as we were mentioning, we can just keep on getting our pieces out. And here, in this line, we see that white is facing a lot of threats. Now we target the pawn on c2. We also got an X-ray on king g1. So what can white do here? For a second I was thinking about c3, but that runs into bishop takes b1, and it's just a lost piece for white. So I guess he has to play bishop d3 here. Not the greatest move for white to play, because at the very least we can take, and this endgame is not great for white. Double pawns. What is white playing for here? It's a dream for black. d4 is a pawn that can only be protected by pieces. e6, we can easily defend that with our king. No queens on board, so we can safely place our king in the center. So you can see that this is just one line where white played a slight mistake, and all of a sudden gets a clearly worse position. By the way, queen d7, please ignore that one. That was a mouse slip. And I want to show you one more line here after pawn takes, queen takes. So bishop e2 is one of the lines we analyzed. Bishop d3, not big difference. It's slightly better than the line we just saw where white played bishop e2. But here we can still put in a lot of pressure. They're playing bishop g4. We got the pin. We attack the pawn on d4 as well. White runs the risk of getting double pawns on the king side as well. If he goes h3 especially, this is terrible. It cannot get worse than this for white. I mean, it speaks for itself, as the popular saying goes. So, in a nutshell, in this position, whether it's white playing a3 or c3, taking on f6 is not a great idea for white. Now, the move white played in the game is another line that's likely to happen. I assume that more experienced players would be inclined to play something like this instead of taking on f6. So after bishop to b5, let me show you what happened in this game to see how black plays this middle game. And with that, we'll finish our intro, and of course, we'll continue our open analysis from next chapter onwards. For the first chapter, I really wanted to uh, make sure we start off with a game where the plans are easy and straightforward. So we see this line, which we can call the advanced variation. We played Nc6, of course, we got the bishop out. We want to play f6, an early f6, and white reacts with bishop b5. Now, bishop b5 is quite smart for white to play this, because if we take on e5, now he can just take, and we don't really have a way to take on e5 because of the pin, and then of course he's got a lot of pressure on c6. We don't really have a clear way to defend it, and even if we go 97, he can go for another pin, and at some point we'll end up losing something. Even if we don't, we are just allowing white to control the e5 square. That's not what we're looking for here. So after bishop b5, what we'll do is we'll keep the tension in the center, and we'll play knight to e7. So this is a key position to understand, because once we go knight to e7, we connect our knights. So if he takes on c6, you can always reposition a knight there. Not a big deal. Now, if he takes on f6, this is still good for us, because we can simply take with a pawn. You're probably thinking, this is not great for black because our king side is a mess. Not really. We still control the e5 square, which means we control the center. We've got the file for our rook. We've got the c6 square under control, so he cannot really destroy our pawn structure, because we're not going to take with the pawn. We'll just take with the knight. And then we'll play queen d7. We'll castle queenside. Our king will be safe there. And then we can just attack in the center and kingside. So all of a sudden, we get this position where our opponents as white, they'll think they're better. But actually, after pawn takes, we can see even the engine approves. The engine says that this is slightly better for black. So we don't need any other opinion, actually. If the engine says this is better, we'll, of course, go with that. And now, just to show you a sample line, white castles. Had you played knight h4, we could have played bishop g6, by the way. I think this is another key concept to mention, because if white takes, then our pawns keep getting better and better. We control all the squares in the center. We've got the file. We'll castle queenside. We might play e5, knight f5, you name it. We've got everything going on for us here. So I think that was a key line to mention. I don't want to forget the key concepts. Sorry if I intertwine lines sometimes. So white castles, and here I really like queen to d7. The engine also mentions queen d6, but I think queen d7 is easy to understand. White plays knight to d2. Now we can castle queenside. White, he'll try attacking as well, but you'll see that our attack is much quicker. We've got threats right away. Even the not so easy to understand bishop g4 makes a lot of sense. I think rook g8 makes more sense. at least from the human point of view. Bishop g4, we get a lot of attacking ideas here. For starters, even though we got a pin here, at some point knight takes d4 might be a threat. And this pin won't be here forever because at some point we can play a6. So white has to make a decision here. On top of that, we can try knight f5. Now we got two knights attacking the d4 square. We can play knight d6, attacking the bishop on b5. Then the knight is improving dramatically. And I can see also some outpost for our knight on the queen side. The fact we'll attack on the g file, rook g8. We could even play queen g7 at some point. It's worse than it looks for white. Just to show you another sample line, the engine recommends h3 for white. Not an easy move to play because we know that each pawn that white touches on the king side is a potential target we'll have later on. Here we can simply ignore white's last move and just keep on firing. If he takes the bishop, he'll be in trouble because we'll have a lot of attacking chances and probably a checkmate on the h file. And if white doesn't take, then just to show you a sample line, let's say he goes rook b1, we'll keep on bringing pieces to the king side. At some point, we'll pull the trigger. So let's see, and we'll finish with this. Let's see in this position what happens if white accepts the challenge. Takes. Now knight to e1. Here, knight f5. We see the queen transfer. Not easy for white to stop this. If he goes f3, we can just close the deal by playing g3. We get a really nice checkmate, and I'll show you. Here after bishop takes, queen h7. That's checkmate. It's unstoppable checkmate, actually. Rook h1 is the kind of puzzle you would find in any, basic puzzles book. And here we get this fantastic checkmate for black. I wonder if white can try something else here. Once he takes the bishop on g4, so h5, takes, maybe knight h2. All right, knight h2 might be slightly better, but still knight f5. It's interesting to see that, even though white's up a piece, there's nothing he can do, because queen h7 is coming, bishop d6 is support as well. So it's a -4 advantage for black. So you can imagine this is there's nothing white can do. Let's say queen takes. That's the only move I can think of. Now bishop d6. Again, this is just an unstoppable attack here. Queen h7. There's going to be a checkmate sooner or later, even if he trades queens off. Wow. No king h2. All right, so king h1 and boom. So we could be analyzing all of the potential checkmates here. It could be all day. So let's just say that after knight f5 here, black's winning. You can check all the lines with an engine, and of course you can find them yourself as well. This is not all about calculating. I think this is about going with the flow and that position. Once you see here, you don't have to calculate every single line. We know what's going on. We'll find the best way to execute our advantages, and then we'll pull the trigger. So I think black's attack is pretty straightforward. Now, if white doesn't play h3, then rook g8, knight f5, we'll find a way. We can even stack rooks up on the g file as well. So, as you can see, there's a lot of potential in these lines for black. This is just an intro. We'll see a lot of games where there are other ideas white can play. So this chapter, I think we analyzed enough. So we'll finish the intro here. Hope you found this useful. Hope you learned something. And of course, I want to see you guys in chapter 2. Thank you.